Greetings to each and all, and welcome to This Week in Black Media. What we're going to do this week is we're going to continue what we started off on last week in reference to Zionism and racism involved therein. This brings us back to Representative Rashida Tlaib's comment that we're going to impeach the mother effer in reference to Donald Trump. We noticed there that I've put a red X over Make America Great Again, and beneath that put Make America Fair for Once. And I think that what Representative Tlaib and Cortez and others, I think they are a signpost for the future, and we'll see that they don't back down to the Eurocentric narrative and themselves, something that has been grossly lacking in our political representation and the black political representation that we've had, that I'm also going to go into. So all of this is going somewhere significant, and we're going to go in a way that is a step beyond what we've done so far at Ancestral Productions as far as politics is concerned, and we're going to show some things that can be utilized by anybody in black media, and what I suspect deserves to be prioritized as far as our analysis as black media producers. So, in any order, they expected her to apologize and to bow down for making the mistake of speaking to President Trump in the way that she did, or referencing him in the way she did. And look, she did without skipping a beat. I will always speak truth to power, unapologetically. Me? We don't see that in the Congressional Coon Caucus. We don't see that in our black representatives. We see a lot of bootlicking, and I hope that Tlaib, I don't mean to mangle her name, or Cortez, I hope that they inspire that component of our community to come forward, and I think that they will, because it's never been absent from our community. They just haven't been politically active. And we also keep in mind that they didn't start speaking like this until they got in place. You know, there's a lesson to be learned in that too. We see Cortez backed her up, and when the GOP tried to get them to apologize or tried to assert their myth of white supremacy, we see her response. The GOP lost entitlement to policing women's behavior a long time ago. Next. Now, this was in reference to women, but we also have to look at it for the gray areas that surround that are still relevant. She's still talking about the Eurocentric narrative. She's still talking about the Europeanized perception of reality and the power to dictate what that reality is going to be. This is changing, and I've said that before, that it's going to continue to change, even in the language. If we look here where she says the Bronx and Detroit ride together, that's hood talk there. We don't see the suburban white Anglo-Saxon Protestants speaking in that fashion, not in the political realm. And we see that in Tlaib's, when she was sworn in, her son's hitting the dab there. I'm speculating as far as this is concerned, but the person does look like he's experiencing some sort of cognitive dissonance. And can we imagine all those people in that Democratic, at the swearing in, all of them with their underlying racist attitudes, being surrounded by such an influx of black people and other people that aren't Europeans? As I've said before, we've talked about the dissipation of health in black males that are exposed to suburban European white social fields in European neighborhoods or white neighborhoods. They die earlier, being exposed to those racist social fields. What we are seeing with our own eyes is the reverse of that, and even those that hide their racism, physiologically they're still going to be affected by that, because what they're dealing with is things to come. The browning and blackening of society that is at this juncture irreversible. So this cognitive dissonance brings us to this next video here about Tlaib's belief in her addressing the anti-BDS movement, which I'm going to go into in detail there. Basically, it's a contract that 26 states legislators have basically written our rights away, our free speech rights away, and she addresses that, and she addressed that in a tweet here. But here's the the bill that we'll go into in the next session here for this week in Black Media, and it is going to cycle back to our present condition here in the United States, and I'll go into that more as we proceed. But here she states that they forgot what country they represent. This is the U.S., where boycotting is a right and part of our historical fight for freedom and equality. Maybe a refresher on our U.S. Constitution is in order, then get back to opening our government instead of taking our rights away. This legislation does take our rights away, make no mistake about that, and the legislators that signed on to it and agreed with it are traitors as far as I am concerned. And when I get done making the presentation of the data here over the next few sessions of This Week in Black Media, you will see for yourselves that they've sold you out, they've sold your rights away, they've allowed a foreign country to come in and dictate our right to boycott. That's what's on the table there. And who responds to her honest assessment there? Who responds other than someone from the ADL? Jonathan Greenblatt. Intentional or not, this could be interpreted as offensively insinuating dual loyalty, a trope with a long and troubling history. I highlight that there because Mr. Greenblatt, I'm going to go into Jewish history and the history of Jewish actions that were offensive and do show dual loyalty. And all we have to do is start with the Babylonian Talmud, the traditions that have been continued there and their perspective of the Goys. Going to go all in on that. At this juncture, it is time to repel any assertion of anti-Semitism by people that can't even define what makes them the only Semites. That's a lie. That's an issue of propaganda. The Semitic is a language. It's a language group. It's a language group used by more brown and black people of color than any of our Ashkenazi cousins. You see, they've cornered the market on suffering. They've cornered the market on that their suffering in the Holocaust transcends as superior to any other kind of suffering that's taken place on the planet. And as I said, the hypocrisy that they show in the treatment of the Palestinians after and during the suffering that they did during the Holocaust is hypocritical and disgusting. So they don't want an honest assessment of their history, but that's what's going to happen here. And it's my intuition that this is going to be discussed at a larger scale in Black media, because we're going to see just how racist and just how anti-Black the Zionists are. And all we have to do is look at the way they're treating the African immigrants there. All we have to do is look at the Africans from America that they allowed to immigrate there, and look at the land that they did give them next to a nuclear plant. It was beyond symbolic. They don't have an exclusive right to those lands. The only consistent genetic marker they have to the Palestinians that were there to begin with is sub-Saharan African, which is us folks, us black folks of the diaspora. So when I say that we are related, I mean that. And it's significant because most of us run off of a narrative that has where the biblical scriptures or the Quranic scriptures have relevance to life, and that attaching oneself to those histories is relevant and extremely powerful. Well, it's time that the sub-Saharan, quote-unquote, sub-Saharan Africans of the diaspora and in Africa assert their rightful place there as the common denominator substratum of all of those populations. So I support the BDS. I support the right to boycott. I despise Zionism. I think it's racist, and I will show precisely how that is. It is an apartheid system, and we're going to see that apartheid system, it takes policies and implementation measures that right out of the book of the apartheid system that we saw in South Africa and under Jim Crow law here in the United States of America. They are working together, and we know that because the USA and Israel have boycotted together, which they did at the United Nations in 2001. We're going to go into all that. We're going to get into all their business because their business is accessible now. and the facts of history have the propensity to go viral. So, as I've said, my prediction is in black media, these things are going to start to recur. Just as sure as the R. Kelly story recurred this week, just as sure as the other story with the tragedy of the 7-year-old girl that was murdered was discussed across the board. You see, this is going to expand, and the accessibility of what our governmental leaders, the records of what they do and what they say, being accessible by the public is about to change things too. So we're going to know when they sign off on a biased drug law. We're going to know when they sign legislation that would take our rights away. We're going to know all that, and I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to show you how to do it next week. So on that note, this is our second weekend. We're working on getting a media player that will allow you to access all of the videos that we cover for this week in black media. And we're also working on compiling that so you have it so you can go right to the references and use it for your own work or for your own research, etc. We're working on a smart blog. We're developing that, and by the end of this year we plan to have it operating efficiently. So with that said, until next week, this has been This Week in Black Media.